Hi, I'm Peggy Farren, and we are live with the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Welcome to episode 111, 111. Our guest today is fine art photographer Brian Call, but first I'm going to do my little commercial. This is live on Fridays on our Facebook page, so it's facebook.com/understandphotography, and then we upload it to YouTube on Saturday, and we also put it on SoundCloud, which puts it out to iTunes and whatever, if you want to listen to us as a podcast. It's really helpful to us if you comment on the YouTube videos, or if you subscribe to us, or if you give us a review on iTunes. It helps us a lot, so we really appreciate it. Our next 4 weeks to proficiency in photography class starts November 13th. Now that is an online class, but it's an interactive class, so I'm right there with you. You know, I have the same time every week. I'm sitting there with you while you're watching the videos, so you can ask questions. I can help you if you can't figure out where a button is. I can say, oh, it's right here, whatever. So that starts November 13th. You're going to learn to shoot in manual in the very first class. Composition is the second class. Lighting, including flash photography, so that you can balance your flash with your backgrounds and not get that flashy look or the blown out sky. You're going to learn how to do that. And then the last class, I call it the techie stuff. So it's metering modes and drive modes and white balance and things like that. So November 13th, you can find all that information on our website at understandphotography.com. We also have quite a few trips. Now, most of them are sold out at this point, but we have one opening left for our Everglades 4-day trip. Joe Fitzpatrick leads that. That's February 7th through 10th. And then I think he's got 2 openings for St. Augustine in April, and I'm not sure. I know he has openings for Apalachicola area in May, so that's all on understandphotography.com. Check it out. So today, our guest is nature and fine art photographer Brian Call. Now, Brian's been on the show today. He was a guest on episode 21 a long time ago, I guess.
Yeah,
Man, we're getting old.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, you were a great guest. So check that at episode 21. He gave us a lot of good tips on landscape photography. But today, he's going to talk more about his fine art photography and collaborations and things like that. He's been published in a bunch of different magazines. He's featured in books. He's a great photographer. Thank you for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to talk about your new collaborative series. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about your specific series, but also how other photographers can work this kind of thing into their lives or whatever. Mm-hmm. So now you are blending photography with oil paintings?
With oil paintings, yes.
Explain yourself.
I'm working with an artist.
Okay.
Her name is Elena Lasala, and she's an expressionist oil painter. And we kind of met through Facebook, and she liked a bunch of my photos, and so I checked out her Facebook page and really liked her painting style. And very expressive, very deep and emotionally charged images. And I just kept liking her work, and she kept liking my work. And then we finally, after about a year and a half, I decided, maybe a year, decided I should at least thank her for all the all the likes. So I thanked her, and we got talking a little bit, and we actually met we went to an art show together. Okay. And so we've been kind of growing in a relationship, and so I've had this desire to really push my photography in other directions other than like a scientific,
more traditional
use of my photography.
You wanted to do something not traditional.
Yeah, not so traditional.
Okay.
It's not necessarily going to go into a scientific journal or magazine or nature photo magazine that has really slick straight shots of nature.
Right.
And I really wanted to try and push it in another direction, and like the more artsy side of myself. And,
Okay.
And so I took a workshop in techniques, alternative printing techniques.
Let me just stop you because you work for a printer, right?
I still do. I work for a Prince G. Clay shop in Miami. We're a fine art printing company.
Okay.
And I'm an imaging specialist there, so I do this every single day.
Okay.
And I love my job. And really a great crew there.
So you decided that you're just going to learn different printing techniques,
Yeah,
which kind of falls into your
and
job.
this woman, Ida Tejeda, she came in. She's friends with my boss Gerardo, and so I get to meet some of these really great artists. And,
That's so cool.
And she was having a workshop, and so I signed up for her workshop, and I learned how to create my own substrate, which is one of the things that she does. She calls them skins.
Okay.
And then she'll take her images and that were printed on an Epson printer, and she'll print it onto like a clear acetate, and then she'll transfer that image onto that substrate that she's
And
created.
substrate, what is that?
It's basically I forgot what it's called. It's like a medium. It's a Golden makes it. It's like a artist medium, and it's like a gel. And she'll layer it. So she'll put down one layer, and then let it dry, and keep building up those layers.
And she's doing that on acrylic?
No, it's
Okay.
it's a medium that once you build up those layers, it gets thicker and thicker. So that's the actual substrate that she prints her
okay.
image on, and then she'll go in and paint and whatever. So I took her workshop, and after I finished the workshop, I was asked to have a show of my traditional photographs, and I really I didn't have the time to work on those skins and produce that, and then so Elena, she said, well, I've got these textured paintings that she has, and so would you want to transfer your images onto some of my paintings? And I was like
onto like a canvas
yeah,
painting?
onto the canvas paintings. So I thought that was really interesting. So
Okay.
I immediately said yes, because I absolutely love her work.
And no, what does she paint? What's the subject matter?
Usually like dreamy or
Are they landscapes as well? Or
No, it's more based
Abstract?
on people. And
okay.
so like maybe a dream sequence, or very personal. They
Okay.
like to tell a story. And so when she talks about her paintings, I mean, she explains, about what's going on, and a lot of times it's her in the painting. And so it's really, really cool stuff. But the paintings that I have that she gave me, they don't have her usual imagery on them.
Okay.
What she usually does is she builds up textures, and she layers everything, and then she'll sand it down and get it nice and smooth. Even though her paintings will look like this, but they're actually smooth to the touch, which is really interesting.
so they look like texture,
Yeah,
but they don't feel like
do.
texture.
Yeah, they don't feel like it. Sometimes they are. Sometimes she does leave it
texture.
the texture. Yeah, but so anyway, she offered me these paintings, and I was like, well, because of the process, I was hearing that it might have a problem. The image from the print might have a problem adhering to the oil paint.
Okay.
And I really loved her painting, so I didn't want to disrupt the painting.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, I took photos of her paintings, and I was going to work from those photos and blend my images. And then when I saw my photos, I really wanted the sharpness that a scan could get. And I knew that our scanner at work would be able to do that. And so I brought the paintings in, had them professionally scanned. I can scan them, and then I worked from those files, and combine my imagery or my nature photos with the painting.
Oh, wow.
So the big challenge then is how much to push and pull each of the images so that they are balanced in a way that I kind of liken it to the balance of nature, and so it's kind of working out how each of them will balance to work together.
How do you make these choices? Like, okay, do you say, for our audio listeners, they can't see, but we've got a rattlesnake, close-up of a rattlesnake's face, blended in with a lot of texture, and it looks kind of cool and abstract, but you can see the snake still.
Yeah, well, that's how I wanted to deal with this. I didn't want someone to say, oh, that's a photo of a rattlesnake. Obviously, you can't see the snake, but his whole body. I mean, this photo, the body takes up the whole image of the painting. And so, but I wanted this to pop, the face more so, and then I would pick out details in the body, but I wanted it to blend in with the painting as well, so it looks like, it was all part of that.
Okay. So now, all right, so did you start with your photograph and then say, well, let me see which paintings she has that
Yeah,
that
sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes I look at the painting, like I have a photo of egret taking off from a tree. And when she was showing me her textured paintings, we both looked at the painting and said,
that's the
that's
one.
the egret shot right there.
Now,
And
are you just using wildlife for your end, the photographs?
Mostly, yes.
Mostly wildlife?
Mostly wildlife.
I didn't mean to say just.
do, yeah,
Sorry.
But I do have one that's a shot of a storm that I photographed out in Biscayne National Park.
Okay.
And I call it the man o' war because the actual shape of the storm is in the shape of what people would say, oh, that looks like a man o' war, Portuguese man o' war, the jellyfish.
Jellyfish.
And so I call it that. So,
Oh, that's cool.
So I was able to utilize one of her, and I knew exactly when I saw the painting that
You knew it would match with
the man o' war.
So first you decide on the pictures that you want, the photographs.
Or sometimes it can be the other way around. I can look at her painting and then think, okay, this image. I just had another one I did recently, and I chose a painting, and I started working on it, and I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but as I kept working on it, it's like, yeah, this is the perfect one. Yeah.
So sometimes, have you had them that just?
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yes.
this is not working.
Yeah, I've had that. I've even gone to the point where I love it. I got the two working together, and I really loved it, and I brought it to work to actually print it. And it was when I was getting ready for my exhibit at the Works Gallery in Miami, and I got it on screen, and I was like, I wonder if this other painting would work. And so I tried, and I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely the one. So
Now, do you use the same painting on different pictures sometimes?
I try not to, but sometimes I can.
Okay.
And if I can change it in a way, either through color or make an enlargement of that particular painting, and then use that as my background. So there's things that I can do. So it's not repetitive.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be repetitive.
Now, do you scan several, like you say, oh, here's 10 of her images I want. You scan those in and just kind of keep them on the computer, and that's how you can kind of decide on, okay.
Yeah. But, I came to her recently, and I told her, some of my ideas of the type of images I'm looking for. And so with the hope that that'll help influence her when she's painting.
So does she paint for you, or sometimes, or
not yet? Not yet.
You're working on
her. I mean, she's busy too, but yes, that's definitely the plan.
Okay.
I've got plans for this series to grow and keep evolving.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
It's cool, and don't leave us now. But it's BrianCall.com, is it, or
BrianCallPhotography.com.
BrianCallPhotography.com. You can see his work; it's really cool. But just Don't leave us yet, because
Yeah.
we're still talking. We got 45 minutes to go. All right, so now use Photoshop or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Photoshop. Strictly Photoshop.
And so walk us through the process. How does it work? So first you had to take the picture.
Yes.
And then decide on the picture, and then you have to decide on the
Yeah, I
painting.
went out to the Everglades to photograph this snake. As an example for this one, I found this rattlesnake in Everglades National Park.
But you had already had that.
Yeah,
picture.
I have already had that.
Because you just
photo,
can't go out
so-
looking for rattlesnakes and
Yeah,
find
sometimes you can.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway,
But
so,
then once I get my photo, and then I scan her painting, and then basically I start with her painting as the background, and then I bring my photo in. So what actually before I do that, I optimize her painting to the level of how I think it should be.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
As close to the way that she painted it, and optimized, visually, so that I cut out all the like the graying out or that can happen when it's scanned. So I just optimize the image like I would with any of my nature photos.
Okay.
And then I bring mine in, and
you just stick it right on top as a layer?
yeah, I create obviously I create a layer for that, and then I'll change that layer so that it's like I try it as an overlay.
And you're talking about in the layers palette.
Yeah, the blending.
There's a blending mode.
Yes, yeah.
So you go through different blending
Yes.
modes to see
Yeah,
what looks
the ones
good.
I use mostly are overlay, multiply, and screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
screen.
Screen
You
because
don't use
it
soft
lightens
light?
it up.
Soft light, I
I
use a lot.
haven't. No, I do. I'll go through the list sometimes and see what this one does, what
Yeah,
that
most
one
of the time
does.
it just looks weird.
Yeah, but I play around, and it's hard to describe exactly. This is what I do next. It all
Because
depends on
You change a lot.
how much I want that image to come through, and the main goal of mine is to blend it so that it looks like it's part of the painting,
Okay.
rather than something that's placed on top
Okay.
of the painting. So it's very important to get that look for me.
Now, do you change the colors or anything like that while you're in there?
Like in this case, the painting was exactly like this type of coloration, and so the snake colors blended right into the painting.
Okay, okay.
So in the process, yes, there's changes that happen, but and I let things happen. So if I see a tendency that I like, I'll go with that, and then push that even more. Sometimes I'll bring back the original coloration of the photo, but still blending it in to the painting. But it's just for me it's really exciting just to see it all come together. And it's hard to say, okay, it's done, or but I think for me it's like more of a feeling.
So you just kind of...
It feels like it's done.
Do you mess with the opacity of the layer
Oh, yeah.
too?
Yeah, I play around with the opacities and the intensity.
What's the intensity?
The brightness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, for those of people who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, we're talking about in Photoshop, you can do this
Photoshop.
in Elements as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have a layers palette, and then there's a blending mode that you can try all those different blending modes
Yeah,
that you talked about, but then you can also bring the opacity of the layer down so it's more see-through,
Yeah.
or not.
Mm-hmm.
What
But
about
you can-
masking
you can-
and
oh
things
yeah,
like
I use
that?
masking,
So
quite a
you'll
bit.
cut out parts of the picture and leave other
Yeah,
parts in?
Yeah. I didn't so much with this one. I'm sure I used some masking to sharpen up some of the edges and that are in the snake. But there's some other ones that I've created, like there's a flamingo, and I really wanted to separate it from its background, which was mostly dark anyway. And so I'll use the mask, to separate out the.
So you'll
the
actually
flamingo.
cut the flamingo out and
Yeah.
then put the flamingo on one of the
Yeah,
paintings.
so the painting will actually be the background. Yeah.
Okay.
But then where the flamingo is on top, I guess, or blended in, you can still see that painting coming through.
Okay.
And that's really important for me, for Elena's painting to come through in the whatever subject that I have. So I really want there to be a balance between the two.
So that's just a wing it kind of thing, just by the blending and the opacity and the masking, just kind
Yeah.
of like, well, this
Yeah,
looks
and
like.
I can get really creative with the masking too. And I've been working Photoshop for a long time, since Photoshop 4. And
Wow.
I used to work for a silkscreen company,
Okay.
producing T-shirts for roller coasters all around the country.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool to work on those. And so I would, take some reference photos from the internet, and you have to change things quite a bit. And so, I would blend things and get things. I would distort images and blend things together like I do here, but I learned a lot of my masking techniques back then.
Now, do you use any other tools for anything, or do you just use Photoshop?
Just Photoshop.
So you don't use like Topaz Remask to help cut out
No.
things?
I'm sure that there's some things out there now that can do it, but
But you
for
already
me
have
on the
so much
fly-
experience.
Yeah, for me like when I'm working on the fly at work, I just go with what I know, and it's got to be like that.
Yeah.
And,
Time is money.
Yeah. And it's funny because Adriel, the guy that's next to me, he's a total Photoshop whiz as well, and I'm keeping an eye on him, and so I'm looking at some of the things he's doing. It's like, what is he doing? But it's pretty awesome, the stuff that he does. And then I'll have like this little race, like when he's masking something, I'll mask something. So
That's funny.
yeah, it's pretty cool. There's all these things that I've built up all that experience in my past, and I'm able to utilize that
Yeah.
with my own work and the work that I do where I work.
Yeah, that's nice because you got a job where you get to actually learn and
Yeah.
practice a lot of this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Now, are you always printing on a certain type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Because this picture we keep talking about, which we got to be aware that a lot of people they
Yeah.
can't watch. But this is metal.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
do you
it's
always
called dye
print-
bond. It's
do you always print on metal?
for the series. I do offer them on metal. That's what I started with.
Okay.
But I also sell these on art papers as well. So Hanamiel was a photo rag pearl, and depending on the size. So there's I forgot the name of the other Hanamiel now. I'm all nervous, but
I don't.
but anyway, it's an art paper that Hanamiel makes, and
Okay.
depending on the size, so that can change what paper you're using.
And so on those, they need to frame them?
Yes.
But with the metal, it's like the clean look without the frame, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the metal printing, because your printing is pretty specific on how does it work with metal printing? I mean, you said you buy the sheets of.
Yeah, we get I think they're like 63 inches by 96, 97 inches long sheets, and then we get a specific size that a customer wants, and then
Are they custom sizes all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
and then we can cut it down, and then the edges are sanded, and then
Now wait a minute. So how do you cut it down? Do you have a machine to do that, or?
Yeah, there's a machine that they'll use, and it's it's like a saw, and they'll just cut it down to size.
Wow. And then they hand sand them, or with a little
Oh, with like an
sander.
electric sander.
Electric sander, and that helps the what is it? The
Well,
pigment?
it just smooths the edge, and then once I get it, I bring it to the printer, and I set up the files so that the printer actually prints it like a little bit wider or bigger than the actual piece of metal, so that there's overspray, and then so send it to print. And it's a UV printer, so it's a flatbed UV printer.
What does that mean?
It's basically, it lays down, the metal will be laid down flat.
Okay.
And then there's like a print head assembly that travels along the top.
Okay.
And then the print head goes, across and actually sprays the ink. And as the ink is sprayed, there's lights that go on, UV lights that will actually cure the ink as the head's moving. So you can actually, touch it.
Like right
afterwards.
away, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Really? Now this picture that you brought, this feels much thicker than the metal print that I have.
Yeah, that's a different process altogether.
Okay.
This process with the UV printer, we use a dye bond, so it's much thicker metal, and then I think it's dye sublimation that they use.
Is that what? I don't know. You're the printer guy, not me.
But I don't really use that, so I don't know that much about it myself. But
this
but
one
for this,
it doesn't even look like metal.
Yeah.
And it's thick like a regular mounted.
Yeah, well, that's what's nice about it.
Yeah.
I really like the thickness of it, and I really like the fact that it's not shiny. It's got a matte finish, and it'll hold up really nicely. I was at a gallery once, and a friend of mine had one of the other type of metal prints. It was a big print. It was actually bent.
Ooh.
So yeah, so that I really.
I told you what happened. Mine chipped on the edges.
When people handle these pieces of artwork, this will hold up a lot better.
And you do art shows, so you need them to hold up, right? Because that's hard on your pictures. I'm a judge at the Naples Art Association, and I felt bad for this one guy because he had beautiful, his work was nice. He had these big pictures, or I don't know, maybe it was a woman, whatever. But they were canvas gallery wraps, and the bottoms were dirty. And all of us as judges were like, this looks terrible, but they're probably carting them around from show to show, and they get too beat up, and it was a painter, so you could paint over that, That's
true. No excuses.
Now, how many pieces do you have in this What's the name of this collection that you're doing?
It's called Genesis.
Genesis.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so how many pieces are in Genesis right now?
Right now I've got 17, soon to be 18.
Wow. And you sell them in art shows mostly?
Right now I'm selling them through Saatchi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And Saatchi is a website that is similar to
sells.
Fine Art America, right? Where you can load your pictures up and they'll sell them for you and just give you the money, or give you some of the money.
Right.
But they do the printing and everything, right?
No, actually I do.
Oh, Saatchi does not, because Fine Art America does the
actually,
printing.
they can do the printing. You can tell them if you want like open edition canvas prints or whatever made. But mine are strictly limited edition, so I've got 3 sizes. 2 of the sizes I only go up to 5. And then
You only go up what?
up to 5, so it's a very limited edition.
So there are
1
only
over
5 of each piece.
of each size.
Photograph.
Right.
Oh, of each size.
Yeah, so
okay.
I have 2 sizes, like a smaller and then a medium size, and then for the really big, large size, I'm only offering 1 out of 2, or a limited edition of 2.
Okay, so the large. So for instance, this rattlesnake picture, if we want the
This
big
is
one,
like the mid-size.
this is a mid. So if we want a really big, there's only 2. If we want this mid-size, you're going to print 5. Awesome. And what's the psychology between? I just had a long conversation about limited edition, so I want to hear from you. What's the psychology of a limited edition? Why do you do that?
Just so that there's like a value. There's a better or more value to something that is not going to be produced beyond that.
Now, when you say, I'm only doing 5 of this, 3 of that, whatever, does that count for everything, or can you still do note cards, or?
That I'm still trying to figure out, but I believe so. I mean, if you're not signing it or numbering, if I wanted to offer like a smaller size, I might be able to do like an open edition. But I really want to stick with the limited editions.
Yeah. Well, scarcity makes people want things.
Yeah. It also keeps the value.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Well, that's why, because it's like I told you, I went to visit Miami this week, and I went to Peter Lick's gallery, I found out he has 17 galleries, but he's the guy who sold the photograph for $6.5 million, right?
Wow.
So I was talking to the gallery owner quite a bit. I was fascinated, and he sold that picture as a color photograph for, I forget how, let's say $1 million, whatever. And then a collector said, well, I want that picture, but I want one of kind. So he printed it in black and white for him. So he'll never do another black and white one of that image. And so he has the...
How much did you sell that one for?
No, that's the one that's 6.5,
Oh, wow.
the black and white. It's called Phantom. And it's in Antelope Canyon, I believe. I mean, I've seen similar pictures before. I mean, it's beautiful. He's an amazing artist, but there's a lot of psychology to selling your artwork, which we're always learning, right?
Yeah.
So how many pieces do you see this series going, or is it just until you get tired of it?
I think it'll be just ongoing.
Because you like it.
Yeah, yeah. And strictly, I really want to just work with Elena. Although I like the idea of working with other artists, but this is something that I think that we are developing this together, and so I can see this is growing quite a bit.
And what's the split? Is it 50-50 if you
course.
sell one?
Of course.
But you don't see yourself doing it with somebody else, something different, or
Maybe
you don't
something
know?
different right now, but I really want this to grow. And
So this is your sole focus right
yeah,
now?
this is it.
And are you taking new photographs for it, or are you going through your archives?
I'm always I always take new photos, but I do want to go through some of my older works as well. And I'm even using some of my video footage for creating the images as well.
How do you do that?
I can get a screen grab, or you can get like a single frame.
Okay.
Save it. Now my GoPro is like a number 3.
Okay.
The 3 black, the GoPro Hero black, and so the file size isn't very large.
I was going to say the quality isn't that great, is it?
No, but you can play with some of the things that are a lot of people would say is defective or a defect. At 300 dpi, it's like a 4x6
Wow,
file
that's
size.
pretty small.
Yeah, but I can work those images and.
Well, I guess if you're putting the textures in there and
Yes,
everything like that,
exactly.
is there a benefit to using a real oil painting as to just using textures that you took pictures of? Like I
for
have
me, it's important to have that handmade element, and I know people can take photos of textures and mix and that's perfectly fine, but for me I really love the fact that there's a handmade element involved with the process. I'm totally into the technology of today, but I think it's important to have that handmade element
Well, it makes
involved.
you completely unique. Because nobody else is going to get that, right? And that's important to collectors.
Yeah.
Art collectors like to be, one of the few who has a Brian Call Genesis series.
And I am still considering ways of getting my images onto her paintings, and so that's one of the directions.
Now, what does she paint on? Does she paint on canvas, or
She paints on canvas or art papers. She can get really creative with what she paints on, but I've got both. Canvas from her and art, really expensive art papers.
So that is the technique you learned in that workshop. You could take your photograph and instead of
And
doing it in
transfer
in Photoshop, you would literally transfer it onto her. And
Yeah.
how would you blend that, though, I wonder?
Well, if I can get it to stick, then basically, you can paint on top of that afterwards, and so you can start playing around that way. So it really does, become a one of a kind.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. See, now when I saw your Genesis theory on the internet and it said you were combining oil paintings, I thought that she was painting onto your photographs. I didn't understand. So it's interesting. It's really a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
So what else did you learn in that class that got you so inspired?
Just the transfer, being able to transfer onto other surfaces, and just seeing Ida's work, which is pretty amazing.
And what does she do? Is she a...
She's a photographer.
Okay.
She does a lot of experimental work. So she'll take photos and then print them onto the acetate, and then she'll transfer again on either her handmade skins that she's made or other surfaces.
Like, can you
like
do...
you can do one wood, you can do it on glass. I mean, you can do it on a lot of
Do you know how to do all that?
I
Maybe.
took her work and I haven't done much since, but yes, I can certainly do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the things that they do, so like the wood, the pictures on wood is kind of cool, but it's a certain taste, I think, certain, it's got a real unique feel. This has a real unique feel, though. And of course, big, is there a reason that you print so big? Such an odd size.
I really like the large format. If I can make them bigger, I can make them bigger.
How big can you go?
I can go up to 96, 95 inches or so.
And 63 wide, do you think?
Yeah, 60. I think 60 is a safe one.
60 is 5
60,
feet, right?
Yeah. No.
6 feet?
Yeah, that's 5 feet.
Yeah.
Not much of a mathematician.
Yeah.
I'm an artist.
I'm an artist. Don't throw numbers at me. So 5 feet, like if you wanted a tall, skinny thing, you could do 5 feet wide. And do you have any verticals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done some verticals.
Now, so you're mostly doing wildlife, right?
Yeah.
And how?
One of my verticals is actually a strangler fig tree that I photographed, and I mixed that with one of Elena's paintings.
Ooh, is that on your website?
Yes.
I want to see that one. Because that's different from the wildlife, right? You said mostly you have wildlife.
Yeah, most of it is wildlife.
So who are your customers? Who buys this stuff?
Right now, I'm hoping, I haven't really sold anything yet, but I'm getting a lot of positive feedback, and people that have they like fine art.
Yeah.
That's something that's different.
They're looking for something unique.
Yeah.
And how do you find those? Besides Saatchi is one way.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing shows too, but
Yeah,
not
I'm
a lot
also-
if you're working full time.
Yeah, I'm also directing my attention to interior decorators and designers.
That's very, very good
Yeah.
idea.
And there's a lot of people that want something different. They, I'll go to a show and, I'll see a photographer, that does the, normal, straightforward, traditional. And, I'll see another, company that offers very similar imagery. So there's a lot of imagery that's similar that they're all doing. And so my whole thing is to separate myself from that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Come up with something unique, and that's me or Elena and myself, and make it work.
And you do have it is a nice, unique thing, that collaboration of the oil painter and the photographer. That's a great idea.
And I am getting a lot of interior decorators and designers liking my work.
Now, how do you find them?
Instagram. That's a great way.
Are they finding you because you're posting your work?
Yeah.
And how many pieces do you have?
Right now I have 17.
17. That's not very many Instagram posts. How do you get their attention on 17 pictures?
Well, it's over time. So, I'll post some of my own photos, just straightforward, traditional, yeah, and they're pretty awesome too. So, so I get their interest in both, and so I don't want to give up both, but this is really the direction I'm heading into. So it's totally new for me,
Now, do you have ideas, like how can somebody kick their brains into gear? Like, you were inspired by this lady who was printing, and then you met Elena.
Yes.
So you had two things happened to make this happen. What can someone do if they want, like, here's something, we teach a class called How to Sell Your Photography as Art, and we help photographers with their portfolio because you need a look, right?
Yeah.
If, I have the same problem that most photographers. I like everything. I want to do wildlife. I want to do landscapes. I want infrared today. No, I like black and white. I'm like all over the place. So we try to help photographers have a look so that people can look. Clyde Butcher, you see Clyde Butcher's work, it's his work. Now we're going to see work like this. We're going to know it's Brian Call's work. How do you come up, like how can you?
It's got to be inside you. I mean, it's got to be something that you desire, and that's it's like a burning desire to produce something that's you. That's
Yeah, but how do you know what you are?
That's. I mean, that's like finding the meaning of life. But it's just a matter or a process of trying to. I guess what I'm trying to say is a process of being able to look and explore, and that's one of the things I like about this process is it's an exploration.
Okay.
And I'm just lucky because it's all the whole series is all coming together.
All together so perfectly.
Yeah. And my meeting Elena just helped bring that together.
So it sounds to me like you kind of have to be really like open to ideas, or I don't know how, I'm not saying that very well, but like, okay, I want to find something unique to do with my photography. How do I get there? Well, I think taking workshops is a great idea too, because you get inspired when you're at like a photography convention or workshops, things like that. It's, you get inspired by other artists.
Yeah.
And then opening your mind to other art.
Yeah. And sometimes too, like working with your limitations. So if you have a camera that produces a lot of noise, which is what I had done many years ago, I had the Nikon D300.
Okay.
And I'm out in the Everglades, and I wanted to photograph the Milky Way. But the camera produced a lot of noise.
Oh.
So what I did was I upped the ISO to almost like to the maximum, and shot the Milky Way, and it came out super, had noise everywhere. So I converted it to black and white. I worked with it. I added noise in Photoshop and made them, like really big prints. And I was the two images that I produced got juried into a show at in Miami by Bernice Steinbaum.
Wow.
Yeah. So you just learn how to work with sometimes the limitations.
That's interesting.
And be open to how do I push that and how do I use that, and you know, you can make things work for you. So
that's something that you just reminded me of. Tony Robbins, you know who he is, the motivational speaker. He always says, ask yourself good questions. Don't say, you know, why can't I think of anything creative? You have to say how, like you just said. You just said it. That's what made me think of it. How can I
how can I make this work?
Or what can I do to this
and
to
be
make
open
it?
to ways in which you can make things work. Like the GoPro, you know, I don't see that as a limitation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, and I would think, well, the quality is going to be so crap,
Yeah,
you
but
know?
you can, what's really great about the GoPro is you can, you know, sometimes get at angles that you just wouldn't be able to do with a much larger, clunkier camera.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, and you can get some really nice angles on some of the subjects and come up with something really unique.
I can't remember who she is, but there's a woman who, I don't know if it's here in Florida, but she gets close-ups of alligators. And I always thought, I wonder if she has a GoPro on a stick or something, because she's really close, you know? And underwater, you know, that's where you don't want to see the alligators underwater, where they can drown you, right?
Right. Actually, I've found them to be, and I'm not saying, you know, that they're not dangerous, because they are. But they seem to be calmer when you're in the water with them. So, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do this, because you know, it is a dangerous thing. But you know, I have been in that situation, and so you know, I've been able to get, you know, kind of close and take my shots, and you know. It's not necessarily a death sentence to be in the water with them, but you know, with that said,
you have to be careful, because they could hurt you.
You got to know their behaviors. I used to be a swamp guide, you know, for many years for, you know, two tour companies, and so I've had experience, you know, with them, and always good to have people with you as well. So, but anyway.
Yeah.
But I can see what you know, how she's able to get those shots.
Yeah, so they're calmer underwater. You know, as much as, you know, I like to hike in the swamp. I've been doing it only for 3 years, and when I'm in the deeper water, I've never seen an alligator. You know, I don't know if it's the areas we go, they're not a lot, but probably they just avoid us is probably more.
Yeah, that's usually what they do. They would rather avoid us than anything.
Yeah.
I had a friend that, you know, she's out with her husband, and they kind of got separated, and she's just, you know, bebopping around and kind of looking in all directions, and then she just happened to look in front of her. There's a big 12-foot alligator right in front of her in like waist deep water.
Oh, geez.
She's like, "Oops, sorry," you know, and she just kind of scooted around, and everything was fine.
Was he looking at her?
Oh yeah, he was looking right at her.
Wow.
And very intimidating, I'm sure. You know? But, and I was out with a group once, and I saw the tail swoosh in front of me, and I didn't see it because, you know, there's several people in the water.
Yeah, it gets all
mucky. It gets kind of all muddy, but I did see that tail swish, and he was heading in the opposite direction. So, you know, I've had those experiences, and so, you know, I'm a little bit more calmer than, you know, most other people would be, probably.
Yeah.
So
I'd probably be more afraid of if I saw a snake in the water, I think, than if I saw an alligator.
I think most of the time, these animals, they don't want any part of us.
Yeah.
You know.
I think you're probably
But you can definitely tell when an alligator's interested. So you don't want to, you know, go near that alligator or snake. But I really like cottonmouth. I've heard so many stories of, you know, cottonmouths going after somebody, and they're usually just wanting to get to the water. You know, that's like their refuge, and the person is in between, you know, the snake and where the snake wants to be. They perceive that as an attack. But out of all the years that I've either handled water moccasins to get them out of the road before they get hit by cars.
Oh my God.
I've never, ever, ever had one attack me. Never.
Wow.
Yeah.
You pick them up?
Sometimes
How do you pick one up?
with a stick.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of the time I just scoot them along, but I picked them up a few times.
I was out with my friend Chris one day, and we saw a python, and he, of course, they're bad. We don't want those out there, but he went and tried to pick it up by the tail, and it was striking at him, man. I was like, you're going to do something that's stupid. Wait till I get my camera out.
Gotta document that.
I
Get
did
on
it so
Facebook.
fast, I didn't even get a picture.
What not to do with a python.
So what else do you want to talk about? We have a few more minutes. Is there anything else about this series that you want to talk about?
Actually, there's a project that I'm working on,
Okay.
and it's a book on the series, Genesis series.
Okay.
And it's going to be all these new images that I'm producing. So.
And is it just like a coffee table book, or is it like, here's the collaboration, here's what we've done?
It's going to be the story of how it started. Yeah. So how it all came together, and it's going to be mostly about the images, but I really want to get that story out there.
Okay. Now, how are you putting that book together? Are you writing it yourself?
Yes.
You and Elena together. Okay.
Yes. And right now I'm in the design stage, and I've got maybe half of it designed and put together.
So you're designing it too.
Oh, yeah.
But you're a graphic artist, so you know how to do that. What do you use InDesign?
Right now I'm using Photoshop to just lay everything out.
Okay.
And then I can use something else, that'll put it all together. So either InDesign or one of the graphic programs that you can use.
Wow, that's exciting. And then what are you going to do with that book? Are you going to obviously try to sell
Try
it?
and sell it for sure.
Where do you get a book printed? Have you looked into that yet?
I'm in the process right now, so there's maybe some, I want to check overseas. Usually the pricing is a little bit better. So I'm not at that stage yet, but I'm still in the design stage.
Right.
But that's something I want to research more.
We've had a few people who have done self-publishing on the show. I'm blanking on everybody. Stefania Piffery, is that how it? Yeah, couldn't think of her. I was thinking Stephanie, and I knew that was wrong because she was Italian, but she got her books printed in Italy, and she might even tell us where. Or Heather might have put it in the show notes. But then David Fitzgerald, is that his name? Fitzsimmons. He was another one who did self-publishing. Now, for Joe and I, we just do print on demand through Amazon. It's very expensive, though. We don't make.
That was one
if
of my,
somebody downloads, because we have a guide, Florida Photo Spots for Collier County, Naples and Collier County. If somebody downloads it, I think it's $4.99, and we make like $1.75. If somebody gets the book for $27, we make like 13 cents.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could have priced it bigger, but $27 for a guidebook, I think, is about what people will spend. So it's more of a, loss leader for us.
Yeah,
we're not going to make money that way.
Yeah, I looked into that, and I felt the same way that
it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. I mean, if I wanted to get it out before Christmas, but which is, I was thinking about that, but I really wanted to, do this in a proper way. So.
Yeah, and that type of book, a coffee table book, you can charge a little bit more for too. But yeah, if you get some printed ahead of time,
down,
that's probably then you can actually make money. Our book is not really. We're not really planning to make a lot of money off the book.
Right.
It's more of a, look and see what we do. If you like this, come on a tour with us or something,
Yeah.
So, so all right, so that's coming up next for you. And where can our audience find you and more of your images? What's your website?
It's briancallphotography.com.
Okay.
And you can do a search on Saatchi as well for
Brian
images
Call
there.
Photography is what we look up.
Brian, I think it's Brian Call. So,
And you're just Call, very easy.
yes. Yeah.
Not some weird fancy spelling.
No. Call me up.
And what's Elena's last name?
Lasala. Lasala.
Sala.
Lasala.
Elena Sala. That's a cool name, man.
She's very cool.
She's very cool. She's an
Hi, Elena.
artist.
And Diego is her son. It was funny you were saying if we, work on the projects together, and there was this one that I was putting together, and it was an owl, and I designed it so that it would be just like one half of the face was really strong, and the other half of the face would just blend right into the painting more.
Okay.
And so I showed both Elena and her son Diego, and Diego was like, I feel like it's like not done,
Oh.
and so she told me, and so I take input from both.
How old is Diego?
He's 10.
Oh. Yeah, well, you can get the truth out of a kid.
Yes.
They're not gonna spare your feelings.
Yeah, he tells it like it is. So.
Oh, that's awesome. But feedback is important.
Oh yeah.
Especially.
So at that point, I decided to, go strong on both sides of the face, and I was like, they're right.
He was right. He was right. He's got a good eye.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so it's briancallphotography.com, or Saatchi is SAATCHI. Is it .com?
I think so, yeah.
So SAATCHI.com, Saatchi Gallery. So, all right, well, join us next week for episode 112. We're going to talk about making new connections with photographer Carmen Sprague. Carmen just packed everything up and moved to Florida to become a photographic artist. So that's going to be kind of a cool, inspiring talk. I'm Peggy Farren. Thanks for watching the Understand Photography Show. We'll see you next week.